Ambassador Kethvar adjusted his ceremonial robes as the transport ship descended toward the human colony of New Geneva. The Zephyrian diplomat had studied the species for months, poring over reports from the Galactic Council about these newcomers to the cosmic stage. Humans, they were called, a young race that had barely achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. The briefings painted them as unremarkable. Average height, average strength, no natural weapons or armor. Their technology was decent, but nothing extraordinary. Most council members viewed them as another peaceful species ready to take their place among the civilized races of the galaxy. Some even called them fragile, noting their thin skin and lack of protective scales or chitin. Kethvar's ship touched down on the landing pad with barely a whisper. Through the viewport, he could see the human settlement sprawling before him. Clean buildings rose from carefully planned streets with green spaces scattered throughout. It looked pleasant enough, though nothing particularly impressive. The humans who had gathered to greet him appeared exactly as the files described. Bipedal mammals with soft features and curious eyes. A woman with graying hair and kind eyes stepped forward as Kethvar descended the ramp. She wore simple clothing that marked her as someone of authority, though it lacked the ornate decorations typical of most species leadership. Ambassador Kethvar, "Welcome to New Geneva," she said, her translator converting her words into his native tongue. "I'm Governor Sarah Chen. We're honored by your visit." Kethvar performed the traditional Zephyrian greeting, spreading his forearms wide. "The honor is mine, Governor Chen. The Galactic Council is pleased to establish formal relations with your colony." As they walked through the settlement, Kethvar found himself impressed by the humans' efficiency. Everything was clean and well-maintained. Children played in parks while adults went about their daily business with quiet purpose. It reminded him of any peaceful world in the galaxy. "Tell me," Kethvar said as they toured a medical facility, "your species seems to have adapted well to colony life. Have you encountered any significant challenges since establishing New Geneva?" Governor Chen's expression grew slightly more serious. "We've had our share of difficulties. Weather, supply issues, the usual growing pains of a new settlement. Nothing we couldn't handle." Something in her tone suggested there was more to the story, but Kethvar didn't press. Every species had their struggles when expanding to new worlds. That evening, the governor hosted a welcome dinner in Kethvar's honor. The food was surprisingly good. Humans, he learned, had developed quite sophisticated cooking techniques. The conversation flowed easily, covering topics from art to philosophy. These humans seemed genuinely curious about other species and eager to learn. "Your people appear to value knowledge highly," Kethvar observed, sampling what the humans called wine. "We do," Governor Chen replied. "We believe understanding leads to better solutions, though sometimes understanding isn't enough." Again, that hint of something deeper. Kethvar was beginning to sense that these humans might be more complex than the initial reports suggested. The next morning brought an urgent interruption to Kethvar's planned tour of the agricultural sector. A young human burst into the governor's office where they were discussing trade agreements. "Governor, we've got contacts on long-range sensors. Multiple ships heading this way fast," the man reported. His breathing labored from running. Governor Chen's entire demeanor shifted in an instant. The kind, diplomatic woman was replaced by someone with steel in her eyes. "How many? What type?" 15 vessels, ma'am. Configuration matches Krethek raiders." Kethvar's blood chilled. The Krethek were one of the galaxy's most feared predatory species. Massive armored beings who lived for conquest and violence. They had terrorized the Outer Rim for centuries, and even the combined fleets of the Galactic Council struggled to contain them. "Ambassador," Governor Chen said, her voice calm despite the dire news, "I'm afraid you'll need to evacuate immediately. These raiders don't take prisoners." But Kethvar found himself curious rather than terrified. "Governor, surely you plan to surrender? The Krethek are reasonable when faced with compliance. Your people need not suffer." The look Governor Chen gave him was almost pitying. "Ambassador, you don't understand. We've met the Krethek before. Then you know resistance is futile. They are warriors born, with natural armor and weapons that can tear through most materials. A peaceful colony like this cannot hope to." 3 months ago, the governor interrupted, "a Krethek scouting force hit our mining outpost on the northern continent. 12 of their warriors against 43 of our people." Kethvar nodded sympathetically. "A tragedy. How many survivors?" "All of them," Governor Chen said simply. All 43 of our people survived. The Zephyrian ambassador stared at her in confusion. I don't understand. What happened to the Krethek? We killed them. All 12. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Kethavar's mind struggled to process what he'd heard. Humans had killed Krethek warriors. It seemed impossible. The reports described humans as peaceful, almost fragile beings. How? He whispered. Governor Chen was already moving, issuing rapid orders to her staff. Evacuate non-essential personnel to the underground shelters. Activate defense grid, Charlie. Get me a comm link to Captain Torres. She turned back to Kethavar. Ambassador, I strongly advise you to take your ship and leave. What's about to happen here isn't something the Galactic Council needs to witness. But Kethavar found himself unable to move. His scientific mind was reeling. Everything he thought he knew about humans was being challenged. Governor, I must know. How did miners defeat Krethek warriors? For the first time since the crisis began, Governor Chen smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. The same way we're going to defeat these 15 ships, Ambassador. We're going to show them what humans do when someone threatens our home. Alarms began wailing throughout the settlement. Through the windows, Kethavar could see humans moving with purpose and speed. But there was no panic, no chaos. These people had done this before. You see, Governor Chen continued as she checked something that looked like a weapon but was unlike anything in Kethavar's xenobiology files. The thing about humans is that we're very good at learning, and we learn best when we're angry. Kethavar watched in fascination as the settlement transformed around him. Hidden panels opened to reveal weapon emplacements. Civilians moved efficiently to defensive positions. Children were shepherded to safety by adults who showed no signs of fear. Ambassador, Governor Chen said, you wanted to study humanity. Well, you're about to get a lesson the Galactic Council never prepared you for. You're about to see what we're really like when someone tries to hurt the people we protect. The first Krethek ships appeared on the horizon, their massive forms blotting out the morning sun. Kethavar had seen such ships before, and they had always meant death and destruction for whoever lay in their path. Today, he was about to learn that sometimes the path led somewhere unexpected. The first Krethek dropship landed in the central plaza with a thunderous crash that shook the building where Kethavar stood frozen. Through the reinforced windows, he watched as the massive vessel's doors hissed open, releasing clouds of acrid smoke. What emerged made the ambassador's heart skip several beats. Krethek warriors stood nearly 3 meters tall, their natural armor plates gleaming black in the morning light. Each warrior carried weapons that could punch through starship hulls, and their claws could tear through most known materials. They moved with the confidence of apex predators who had never known defeat. 12 warriors in that first ship. Governor Chen observed calmly, studying a tactical display, probably testing our response before committing their main force. Kethavar counted the massive forms as they spread out across the plaza. Every instinct screamed at him to flee. These were creatures of nightmare, beings that had conquered hundreds of worlds, yet the humans around him seemed almost relaxed. Governor, surely now you'll surrender, he pleaded. Look at them. They're perfect killing machines. Yes, Governor Chen agreed, watching as her people took positions around the plaza. They are. But perfect doesn't mean unbeatable. Watch. The Krethek leader, distinguished by additional scarring and larger weapons, stepped forward and roared a challenge that rattled the windows. The sound was primal, terrifying, designed to freeze prey with fear. What happened next defied everything Kethavar thought he knew about warfare. The humans didn't charge. They didn't even reveal themselves. Instead, the first Krethek warrior simply collapsed, a small hole appearing in its armored forehead. Then another fell, then another. Precision weapons, Governor Chen explained as her snipers picked off targets from concealed positions. We learned that Krethek armor has weak points at the joints and visual sensors. Human marksmanship training pays dividends. The remaining Krethek warriors roared in fury and began firing their energy weapons at anything that moved. Their shots carved deep furrows in buildings and set fires wherever they struck. But the humans weren't where the warriors expected them to be. A young man, barely out of adolescence by human standards, appeared behind one of the massive aliens. Kethavar watched in amazement as the youth placed a small device against the warrior's back and disappeared again before the Krethek could react. Seconds later, an explosion brought the giant down. How? Kethavar whispered. How is that possible? Humans are persistence hunters, Governor Chen said, never taking her eyes off the battle. We evolved to track prey across vast distances, to outlast creatures bigger and stronger than us. We learned to use tools, to plan, to coordinate. What you're seeing isn't magic, Ambassador. It's evolution in action. More Krethek ships were landing now, disgorging additional warriors, but something had changed in their behavior. The confidence was gone, replaced by caution and growing confusion. They had expected easy prey and instead found themselves being systematically eliminated by an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Your species fights like no other we've encountered, Kethvar observed, watching as a team of humans used the settlement's architecture to their advantage, leading Krethek warriors into carefully prepared ambushes. That's because most species fight like Krethek, Governor Chen replied. Honor individual combat, strength against strength. Humans gave up fighting fair about 50,000 years ago. We fight to win, and we fight as a team. A massive explosion shook the settlement as one of the Krethek ships took off, apparently attempting to provide air support. But as it rose, streaks of light shot up from concealed positions throughout New Geneva. Human surface-to-air missiles struck the ship from multiple angles, sending it crashing back to Earth in a ball of flame. Impossible. Kethvar breathed. Your report said you were a peaceful species. We are peaceful, Governor Chen said firmly. We prefer diplomacy, trade, cultural exchange. But peaceful doesn't mean defenseless. Humans learned long ago that sometimes you have to fight for peace. The battle in the plaza was intensifying. More Krethek warriors had landed, but their numbers were steadily decreasing. Humans moved like ghosts through their own settlement, appearing just long enough to strike before vanishing again. They used everything as weapons, their environment, their technology, even the Krethek's own tactics against them. Kethvar watched one human team coordinate a complex maneuver that resulted in a Krethek warrior's own explosive weapon detonating among its allies. The precision and timing required was beyond anything he'd thought possible for such a young species. Your coordination is remarkable, he said. How do you communicate so effectively in battle? Practice, Governor Chen said simply, and necessity. Every human settlement practices emergency scenarios. We learned from history that predators always test the weak first. We made sure we wouldn't appear weak. A new sound cut through the noise of battle, the distinctive whine of Krethek reinforcement ships approaching. Kethvar's translated display showed dozens of additional vessels inbound. His hope for human survival plummeted. Governor, they're bringing their main force. You must evacuate while you can. Governor Chen studied the incoming ships and smiled that unsettling smile again. Ambassador, those aren't reinforcements for the Krethek. Those are targets. I don't understand. Human settlements don't just have ground defenses. Captain Torres, you're cleared for engagement. High above New Geneva, space lit up with weapons fire. Kethvar's sensors detected multiple human ships that had been hiding in the planet's asteroid belt, using their rocky cover to mask their presence. They struck the incoming Krethek fleet with coordinated precision, focusing fire on specific targets until each ship was disabled or destroyed. Ambush tactics, Governor Chen explained. We let them commit their forces to the surface, then cut off their escape. The Krethek think in terms of honorable combat. Humans think in terms of total victory. The tide of battle on the ground shifted dramatically as news of the space engagement reached the surviving Krethek warriors. Their retreat routes were cut off, their backup eliminated. For the first time in their species' history, they found themselves trapped and outnumbered by what they had considered inferior prey. What followed was swift and decisive. The remaining Krethek warriors, demoralized and cut off from support, were systematically eliminated by human forces that seemed to be everywhere at once. Some tried to surrender, but others fought to the bitter end, their warrior culture unable to accept defeat. As the last Krethek fell, silence settled over New Geneva. Smoke rose from various points around the settlement, and emergency crews were already working to contain fires and tend to the wounded. But the humans moved with the efficiency of people who had planned for exactly this scenario. How many casualties? Governor Chen asked as her tactical officer approached. 7 wounded, none critical. No fatalities on our side, the officer reported. Kethvar stared at the governor in shock. None, no human deaths? We told you, Ambassador. We've done this before. We learned. As Kethvar looked out at the settlement, he saw humans already beginning cleanup operations. Children were being brought up from the shelters. Emergency services were treating the wounded and repair crews were assessing damage. It was as if they had simply dealt with an unexpected weather event rather than a life-or-death battle. "I need to update my report to the Galactic Council," Kethvar said slowly. "Everything we thought we knew about your species was incomplete," Governor Chen finished. "We are peaceful, Ambassador. We prefer cooperation to conflict. But we learned long ago that sometimes predators don't give you a choice. When they don't, we show them why humans survived to reach the stars." 3 days after the battle, Kethvar found himself standing in what had been the central plaza, now cleared of debris but still bearing scorch marks from the conflict. Human work crews moved efficiently around him, repairing damage with a speed that seemed impossible for such a young civilization. "Ambassador, your ship is ready for departure whenever you choose," Governor Chen said, approaching from the direction of the medical center. She carried a small device that Kethvar recognized as a human tablet computer. "I find myself reluctant to leave," Kethvar admitted. "The Galactic Council needs to understand what transpired here, but I fear my words alone will not suffice." Governor Chen studied him for a moment. "What would convince them? Evidence, documentation, perhaps testimony from the source. You want to speak with our people, the ones who fought?" Kethvar nodded. "If they're willing. I need to understand how your species became so effective at warfare while maintaining your peaceful nature." "It seems contradictory." Governor Chen gestured toward a group of humans working to restore a damaged fountain. Marcus there led the team that eliminated the Eastern Landing Group. Sarah coordinated our air defenses, and that young man Tommy was the one you saw plant the explosive device. Looking at them now, Kethvar found it difficult to reconcile these ordinary-looking individuals with the deadly efficiency he'd witnessed. They laughed as they worked, shared food and conversation, showed concern for each other's minor injuries. They seemed like any peaceful species he'd encountered. "Marcus," Governor Chen called, "could you spare a moment? The ambassador has some questions." The human who approached was middle-aged by their standards, with graying hair and laugh lines around his eyes. His hands were dirty from repair work, and he moved with the easy confidence of someone comfortable in his own skin. "Ambassador Kethvar, isn't it?" Marcus extended his hand in the human greeting gesture. "Heard you got quite a show the other day." "Indeed," Kethvar replied, still struggling to understand. "Marcus, if I may ask, what is your profession during peacetime?" "I'm a teacher," Marcus said with obvious pride. "Primary education mostly. Love working with the kids." The answer hit Kethvar like a physical blow. A teacher? This deadly warrior who had eliminated multiple Krethek raiders taught children for a living. "How?" Kethvar whispered. "How does a teacher become a soldier?" Marcus's expression grew more serious. "Same way anyone does, Ambassador. Someone threatens the people you care about, and you do whatever it takes to protect them. But the skill, the coordination, the tactical awareness. Every human learns basic combat and emergency response," Marcus explained. "It's part of our education system. We study history, and history teaches us that peaceful people need to know how to fight if they want to stay peaceful." Sarah, the air defense coordinator, joined the conversation. She was younger than Marcus, with the kind of bright intelligence that spoke of advanced technical training. "What's your profession?" Kethvar asked her. "Agricultural engineer," she replied. "I designed crop rotation systems and soil enhancement programs. But I also trained on the defense systems because that's what you do when you live on the frontier." This was becoming surreal. Kethvar was speaking with a teacher and a farmer who had just defeated one of the galaxy's most feared military forces. "Tommy," Governor Chen called to the young man who had planted the explosive. "Come meet the ambassador." Tommy couldn't have been more than 20 by human standards. He had the easy smile of youth and moved with the casual grace of someone who hadn't yet learned to doubt himself. "What do you do in the colony?" Kethvar asked. "Student," Tommy replied cheerfully. "Studying xenobiology, actually. Want to be a diplomat someday like you." Kethvar's mind reeled. A student. A child, essentially, who had casually eliminated a 3-meter-tall killing machine without apparent concern. "How are you not terrified?" Kethvar asked. "The Krethek are legendary warriors. Their reputation spans the galaxy." Tommy's expression grew thoughtful. "I guess because we grew up hearing different stories. My grandmother lived through the food riots on Earth. My grandfather fought in the water wars. My parents survived. The first colonial failures on Kepler 442b. Every human family has stories of surviving impossible odds. The thing is, Sarah added, humans have been fighting for survival our entire evolutionary history. We came from a world where everything tried to kill us. The weather, the predators, the diseases, even the plants. We learned to adapt or die. Marcus nodded. The Krithek evolved on a world where they were the apex predators from the beginning. They never had to learn to fight creatures bigger and stronger than themselves. We've been doing that for millions of years. Kethvar was beginning to understand. So when you encountered them, they were just another predator, Tommy finished. Bigger and scarier than most, sure, but nothing we hadn't seen before in principle. Every human knows what to do when something wants to kill you. You kill it first, faster, and more efficiently. But you're so calm about it, Kethvar protested. You show no signs of trauma or distress. Governor Chen rejoined the group, having finished her communication. Ambassador, what would you say if I told you that humans actually try to avoid situations like this? I would say that seems obvious given your peaceful nature. Right? But the reason we try to avoid them isn't because we're afraid of fighting. It's because we're afraid of what we become when we fight. The statement hung in the air ominously. Kethvar looked around at the smiling, helpful humans working to repair their settlement and felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? The Krethek fight for glory, for conquest, for the thrill of battle, Marcus explained. Humans fight to win, whatever the cost. We don't stop when the enemy retreats. We don't show mercy to those who threaten our families. We don't fight fair and we don't fight honorably. We fight to make sure the threat never comes back, Sarah added quietly. Tommy's youthful smile had disappeared. The Krethek who attacked our mining station? We didn't just kill them. We studied their technology, learned their tactics, analyzed their weaknesses. Then we prepared for when more would come. Because we knew they would come, Governor Chen said. Predators always test boundaries. The first attack was just reconnaissance. Kethvar suddenly understood the true horror of what he'd witnessed. You knew this attack was coming. We hoped it wouldn't, Governor Chen corrected. But we prepared as if it would. Every human settlement does the same. We share information, coordinate defenses, plan contingencies. The Krethek thought they were attacking an isolated farming colony. Instead, they attacked a fortress designed to look like a farming colony, Marcus said grimly. With people trained from childhood to kill anything that threatened their home, Sarah added. By a species that survived by being better predators than anything evolution could produce, Tommy finished. The full implications hit Kethvar like a meteor strike. The humans weren't just surprisingly effective fighters. They were something far more dangerous. A species that had weaponized their entire civilization while maintaining the appearance of peaceful farmers and teachers. How many other human colonies are like this? He asked weakly. All of them, Governor Chen said simply. Ambassador, you asked earlier why the Galactic Council's reports were incomplete. It's because you studied us during peacetime. You saw our art, our philosophy, our desire for cooperation and understanding. All of that is real. But you didn't see what we become when someone threatens the people we love, Marcus said. You're about to, Governor Chen added, checking her tablet. Because 15 destroyed Krethek ships don't just disappear without someone noticing. Their clan leaders will want answers. Kethvar felt his blood turn to ice water. More are coming? A full war fleet, according to our intelligence network. About 200 ships carrying the equivalent of a Krethek army. You have to evacuate. Fight another day. This is hopeless. The humans exchanged glances and Kethvar saw something in their eyes that made his species' natural survival instincts scream warnings. Ambassador, Governor Chen said gently, we're not planning to fight them. Thank the stars. You're going to negotiate. We're planning to end them, Tommy said. His youthful face carrying an expression that belonged on a much older, more dangerous person. Kethvar realized with growing horror that he was about to witness something the galaxy had never seen before. The Krethek had awakened something in humanity that would redefine everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about warfare itself. The Human War Council convened in what had previously been New Geneva's community center. Kethvar watched in fascination as representatives from across the colony's leadership gathered around a central holographic display. Teachers sat next to farmers, engineers beside shopkeepers, students alongside grandparents. Yet they all spoke the same tactical language with casual fluency. Fleet composition is standard Krethek, reported Captain Torres. the military commander who had led the space ambush. She was a compact woman with silver hair and scars that spoke of previous conflicts. 200 vessels, mostly heavy cruisers and assault carriers. Estimated 40,000 warriors. Kethvar's anatomy couldn't produce sweat, but he felt his closest equivalent as the numbers sank in. 40,000 Krethek warriors represented enough firepower to conquer most planetary systems. Timeline? Governor Chen asked. 72 hours until they reach optimal firing position, Torres replied. They're not hurrying. Probably want to savor the anticipation. Good, said Dr. Williams, an elderly man Kethvar had met earlier as the colony's chief medical officer. That gives us time to implement Protocol 7. The casual way he said it sent chills through Kethvar's nervous system. What is Protocol 7? The humans in the room exchanged glances. Governor Chen answered carefully. Ambassador, you've been studying our peaceful nature. Protocol 7 represents the other side of human civilization. I don't understand, Marcus. The teacher-turned-warrior pulled up additional displays showing not just New Geneva, but a network of human settlements across dozens of star systems. Ambassador, when humans first reached the stars, we made a promise to ourselves. Never again would our species face extinction because we were unprepared. The thing about human history, Dr. Williams said gently, is that we've faced extinction before. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, wars. We survived by being adaptable and by working together when threatened. Captain Torres manipulated the display to show shipping routes and communication networks connecting the human colonies. Every human settlement is part of a larger defensive network. We share resources, information, and military assets. Military assets? Kethvar asked weakly. Each colony contributes to a central defense fund, Governor Chen explained. Ships, weapons, personnel, all hidden away until needed. Tommy, the student, was working at a communication station. Response confirmations coming in now. Kepler Station is sending 12 destroyers. Alpha Centauri has a full battle group ready to deploy. New Tokyo is launching their stealth squadron. The numbers kept coming. Kethvar watched in growing amazement as human military assets from across known space began converging on New Geneva. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels revealed hidden weapons. Civilian transports converted to mobile command centers. Mining equipment that transformed into orbital defense platforms. How many ships are coming? Kethvar whispered. All of them, Captain Torres said simply. But that's impossible. The Galactic Council monitors military buildups. We would have detected such a fleet. Dr. Williams chuckled softly. Ambassador, you've been monitoring human civilian shipping. What you didn't realize is that every human civilian ship can become a warship in about 6 hours. Modular design philosophy, Marcus explained. We learned from our mistakes on Earth. Never again would we be defenseless because we kept our tools and weapons separate. Governor Chen called up technical specifications that made Kethvar's head spin. Human civilian vessels were apparently built with hidden weapon mounts, armor plating that could be activated, and military-grade engines disguised as commercial drives. The Krethek are coming to destroy a farming colony, she said. Instead, they're going to face the combined military might of human civilization. But why? Kethvar asked. Why reveal all this for one colony? The room went quiet. The humans looked at each other with an understanding that transcended words. Finally, Tommy spoke up. Because they attacked us first, he said simply. Because they thought we were weak. Because they decided to make us an enemy. You don't understand, Kethvar protested. The Krethek have conquered hundreds of worlds. They've defeated species with technology far beyond yours. You can't possibly— Ambassador, Captain Torres interrupted. What do you know about the Krethek's military history? They're undefeated in direct combat. Their warrior culture has dominated every opponent they've faced. Right, direct combat. Honor duels. Strength against strength. Torres pulled up tactical analyses of previous Krethek victories. They've never faced an enemy that refused to play by their rules. Dr. Williams leaned forward. The thing about humans, Ambassador, is that we gave up honor in warfare about 50,000 years ago. We fight to win, not to prove our courage. What does that mean in practical terms? It means, Governor Chen said, that we're not going to meet them in glorious battle. We're going to end their ability to threaten anyone, ever again. The strategic display showed the approaching Krethek fleet, still confident and unhurried. Surrounding them, invisible to their sensors, hundreds of human ships were taking position, But the formation wasn't what Kethvar expected from military doctrine. Your fleet isn't preparing for battle, he observed. They're surrounding the entire area? That's right, Captain Torres confirmed. The Krethek are coming to conquer New Geneva. We're making sure none of them leave to report what they found here. The cold calculation in her voice made Kethvar's blood freeze. You're planning to destroy the entire fleet? We're planning to solve the Krethek problem permanently, Governor Chen corrected. This isn't about defending one colony anymore. It's about making sure no other human settlement ever faces this threat again. Tommy looked up from his communication station. All human vessels report ready. We've got complete sensor blackouts around the target area. The Krethek won't know we're here until it's too late. And their homeworld? Kethvar asked, dreading the answer. What about it? Marcus asked innocently. You're not planning to attack their civilian population? The humans looked genuinely shocked at the suggestion. Of course not, Governor Chen said firmly. We're not monsters. We don't target non-combatants. But their military infrastructure? Dr. Williams added thoughtfully. Well, that's a legitimate target once they've declared war on humanity. Kethvar realized that while he'd been worrying about the immediate battle, the humans had been planning something far more comprehensive. They weren't just defending themselves. They were preparing to neutralize the Krethek as a military threat entirely. You've done this before, he said. It wasn't a question. The Skarn Confederacy thought humans would make good slaves, Captain Torres said conversationally. They don't think that anymore. The Vorthan Empire decided human space would be better used for their expansion, Marcus added. The Galactic Council still wonders what happened to their war fleet. We tried diplomacy first in both cases, Governor Chen emphasized. But when someone decides to make humanity their enemy, we make sure they can't change their mind and try again later, Tommy finished. The holographic display chimed softly. Captain Torres checked the readings and smiled. Krethek fleet has entered the kill zone. All human vessels are in position. Governor Chen stood up. Signal all ships. Begin Phase 1. Around the conference table, humans who had been teachers and farmers and medical officers just hours before began coordinating the destruction of one of the galaxy's most feared military forces with the same casual efficiency they'd shown repairing fountain damage. Kethvar realized he was about to witness the moment when the rest of the galaxy learned what humans were really capable of when they stopped pretending to be harmless. The Krethek war fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel, with the confidence of apex predators approaching defenseless prey. Kethvar watched their formation on the tactical display. 200 massive vessels arranged in the traditional Krethek battle formation, designed to maximize the terror their appearance would cause on any watching defenders. War Leader Gask commanded the fleet from his flagship, a kilometer-long dreadnought that had participated in the conquest of 17 different worlds. Through intercepted communications, the humans were listening to his address to the fleet. Warriors of the Red Talon clan. His translated voice boomed through the human command center. Today we avenge our fallen brothers. The soft-skinned mammals who dared to kill Krethek warriors will learn the price of their arrogance. Around the conference table, the humans listened with expressions ranging from mild interest to barely concealed amusement. Kethvar found their casual reaction more terrifying than the Krethek threats. He's quite dramatic, Dr. Williams observed. Do they always give speeches before battle? It's a psychological warfare tactic, Captain Torres explained while monitoring her fleet positions. Works well against species that fight for honor or glory. Less effective against people who just want the threat eliminated. War Leader Gask continued his speech, describing in vivid detail how the humans would suffer for their defiance. He spoke of cities burning, populations enslaved, and the Krethek banner planted on every human world. His warriors roared approval at each promised atrocity. Well, that settles it, Governor Chen said calmly. Full Protocol 7 implementation. Signal all vessels. Weapons free. What happened next redefined Kethvar's understanding of space warfare. The Krethek fleet never saw the attack coming. Human vessels that had been running silent and invisible suddenly materialized around them like a closing trap. But these weren't the clean, honorable ship-to-ship duels that marked most galactic conflicts. The humans attacked like a pack of wolves bringing down a larger predator. Coordinated missile swarms launched from multiple directions simultaneously, each projectile programmed with target data and tactical AI. While Krethek point defenses struggled to track the incoming barrage, human energy weapons fired from unexpected angles, exploiting blind spots in the massive alien ship's defensive arrays. Concentrated fire on their flagship, Captain Torres ordered. Take out their command structure first. War Leader Gask's mighty dreadnought found itself under attack from 17 different human vessels at once. Its armor, designed to withstand conventional weapons, began failing under the precise, sustained assault. The humans weren't trying to destroy it quickly. They were systematically dismantling its ability to coordinate the fleet's response. Their communications array is down, Tommy reported from his monitoring station. Engine control next. Kethavar watched in horror and fascination as the human fleet operated with machine-like precision. There was no wasted motion, no grandstanding, no honor duels between opposing captains. Each human ship knew exactly what it was supposed to do and executed those orders with ruthless efficiency. Krethek vessels are trying to break formation, Dr. Williams observed, studying the tactical display. Some are attempting to retreat. Not today, Governor Chen said quietly. Signal the outer perimeter. Nothing leaves this system. The retreating Krethek ships ran straight into a wall of human vessels that had been waiting in the outer system. These weren't warships in any traditional sense. They were converted civilian vessels, mining platforms, even modified cargo haulers. But each one carried enough firepower to cripple a Krethek cruiser. How? Kethavar asked weakly. How do you have so many ships? Every human settlement contributes to the defense network, Marcus explained. Every civilian vessel can be converted for military use. Every citizen knows their role in collective defense. But the resources, the coordination required, Ambassador, Governor Chen interrupted. What do you think we've been doing for the past 50 years while the galaxy thought we were just peaceful farmers and traders? The answer hit Kethavar like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just been expanding peacefully through space. They'd been building the largest distributed military force in galactic history, hidden in plain sight as civilian infrastructure. On the tactical display, the Krethek fleet was being systematically destroyed, not in glorious battle, but with the cold efficiency of an extermination operation. Human ships worked in perfect coordination, sharing targeting data and tactical information in real time. Krethek flagship is requesting to surrender, Tommy announced. The room went silent. Every human turned to look at Governor Chen, who considered the request for several long moments. Tell War Leader Gask that humanity accepts the surrender of his surviving crew, she finally said. His ships will be impounded, his warriors interned, and he will be returned to Krethek space with a message. What message? Kethavar asked. Governor Chen's smile was colder than the vacuum of space. That the Red Talon clan has been removed from existence as a military force. That any future Krethek aggression against human settlements will result in similar consequences. And that humanity is no longer interested in being anyone's prey. Captain Torres checked her status boards. Fleet casualties? Minimal. 2 vessels with minor damage, no personnel losses. Kethavar stared at the tactical display showing the scattered remains of what had been one of the galaxy's most feared fleets. In less than an hour, the humans had eliminated a force that should have been capable of conquering multiple star systems. The Galactic Council needs to know about this, he said quietly. Yes, they do, Governor Chen agreed. Because this is just the beginning. Beginning of what? Marcus answered, his teacher's voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. The beginning of the end for anyone who thinks humanity is easy prey. We tried being peaceful. We tried being cooperative. But if the galaxy insists on teaching us that violence is the only language some species understand, then we'll speak that language fluently. Dr. Williams finished. Tommy looked up from his communication station. Governor, we're receiving surrender signals from the remaining Krethek vessels. Also, long-range sensors are detecting Krethek reinforcement fleets approaching from 3 different directions. Instead of concern, Kethavar saw anticipation on the human faces around him. Excellent, Governor Chen said. Signal all human fleets. Phase 2 of Protocol 7 is now active. It's time to end the Krethek problem permanently. Kethavar realized that what he'd witnessed wasn't a battle. It had been a demonstration. The humans were about to show the galaxy what happened when a species that had evolved as persistence, hunters decided to apply those same instincts to interstellar warfare. The Krethek had awakened something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. 6 months later, Kethvar stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Council on the crystalline world of Nexus Prime. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the vast amphitheater, their attention focused on the small figure at the central podium. The ambassador's report had been circulating for weeks, and today he would deliver his formal testimony about what he had witnessed at New Geneva. Honored representatives, Kethvar began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. I stand before you to fundamentally revise our understanding of the species known as humanity. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The human delegation sat quietly in their assigned section, led by Governor Chen herself. She wore the same simple clothing she had favored on New Geneva, but now Kethvar understood the quiet confidence it represented. For 50 years, we have viewed humans as a peaceful, cooperative species, technologically adequate but unremarkable, a useful addition to our galactic community but not a significant power. Kethvar paused, letting his words sink in. We were catastrophically wrong. The Taraxian representative, a tall being with silver skin and multiple eyes, spoke up. Ambassador Kethvar, your preliminary reports described military capabilities far beyond what our intelligence services have detected. How do you explain this discrepancy? With respect, Counselor Vexthai, our intelligence services observed what the humans wanted us to observe. Every civilian vessel in their fleet can be converted to military use within hours. Every settlement functions as a military base. Every citizen is trained in combat operations from childhood. Impossible, declared the Altarian delegate. Our sensor networks would have detected such preparations. Governor Chen rose from her seat. Counselors, if I may address the assembly. The council speaker, an ancient being whose species predated most galactic civilization, gestured for her to proceed. Governor Chen walked to a secondary podium with the same unhurried confidence Kethvar had observed during the Krethek attack. Honorable representatives, we have never hidden our capabilities. We simply integrated them into our civilian infrastructure so thoroughly that you couldn't distinguish between the two. She activated a holographic display showing human settlements across known space. Every human colony is built to military specifications. Every trade vessel carries defensive armaments. Every citizen understands their role in collective defense. But why? Asked the Quellan representative, an aquatic being speaking through a translation device. Why build such capabilities while maintaining peaceful relations? Governor Chen's expression grew grave. Because peace, Counselor, is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of justice backed by the strength to maintain it. She gestured to the display, which now showed recent galactic conflicts. In the past 6 months since the New Geneva incident, human space has experienced 0 pirate attacks, 0 territorial disputes, and 0 attempts at conquest. Our trade routes are the safest in the galaxy. Why do you think that is? The answer hung in the air like a challenge. Kethvar provided the context that many delegates were still struggling to grasp. Because, counselors, the humans have systematically eliminated every major threat to peace in their region of space. The Krethek clans that survived New Geneva were offered a choice: cease all military operations or face complete destruction. They chose cooperation. The Skarn Confederacy, Governor Chen continued, decided to test human resolve by attacking a mining convoy. They no longer possess the capability to threaten anyone. The Vorthan Empire attempted to claim human territory through force. Their war fleet has been retired. Counselor Vexthai leaned forward. You're describing the systematic destruction of multiple military powers. How is this different from conquest? Because, Governor Chen replied calmly, we didn't take their worlds. We didn't enslave their populations. We didn't impose our government on them. We simply removed their ability to threaten others and left them to rebuild as peaceful societies. The Mentari delegate, whose species was known for philosophical pursuits, spoke thoughtfully. What you describe sounds like imposed pacification. How do you reconcile this with your claimed peaceful nature? Governor Chen considered the question carefully. Counselor, imagine a neighborhood where one house is regularly broken into and its occupants terrorized. The authorities do nothing, claiming it would be wrong to interfere. Is this peace? But eventually the victims organize. They install security systems, train in self-defense, coordinate their response to threats. When the criminals come again, They find themselves outmatched and eliminated as a threat. Is this violence or is this justice? The difference, Kethavar added, is that humans don't fight for glory or conquest. They fight to permanently solve problems. When they eliminate a threat, it stays eliminated. The council speaker raised the appendage for attention. Governor Chen, your species' capabilities represent a significant shift in galactic power balance. What are humanity's intentions regarding council authority? We have no desire to rule over other species, Governor Chen replied firmly. We want to trade, explore, learn, and build relationships with our neighbors. But we will not tolerate threats to human lives or human territory. And if the council objects to your methods? Governor Chen's smile was polite but carried undertones that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. With respect, Speaker, the council's authority extends only as far as its ability to enforce its decisions. We've seen how effective council intervention was when the Krathek were conquering outer rim worlds. The accusation was implicit but clear. The Galactic Council had maintained peace through negotiation and mediation, but when faced with genuinely aggressive species, they had proven ineffective. What humanity offers, Governor Chen continued, is a different approach. Peace through strength. Cooperation backed by consequences for those who choose predation over partnership. Kethavar stepped forward again. Counselors, in my months of study, I've learned that humans have a saying. Peace is the objective, not the method. They will use any means necessary to achieve lasting peace. Including violence? Asked the Quellan delegate. Especially violence, Governor Chen confirmed. Because sometimes removing those who profit from conflict is the only way to achieve lasting peace for everyone else. The assembly erupted in discussion as delegates debated among themselves. Some species expressed concern about humanity's methods, while others seemed intrigued by their effectiveness. The Outer Rim delegates, who had suffered most from pirate and raider attacks, appeared particularly interested. The council speaker called for order. Governor Chen, what does humanity want from this assembly? Nothing, she replied simply. We don't need the council's permission to defend ourselves. We don't require approval for our methods. We're here as a courtesy, to inform you that the galaxy has a new guarantee of stability. And if we object? Governor Chen's expression didn't change, but her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. Then you object. Humanity will continue to exist, continue to prosper, and continue to eliminate threats to peace. The Council is welcome to join us in building a safer galaxy, or you can continue with your traditional approaches. Kethavar realized that this wasn't a negotiation or a request for recognition. It was a simple statement of fact. Humanity had evolved beyond needing the Council's approval. They had become something new in galactic politics, a force for peace that was willing and able to enforce it. The choice, counselors, is yours, Governor Chen concluded. You can adapt to the new reality or you can be irrelevant to it. But you cannot stop it. As the assembly dissolved into heated debate, Kethavar understood that he had witnessed a historical moment. The galaxy would never be the same. Predatory species would think twice before attacking peaceful worlds. Pirates would find their prey suddenly capable of hunting the hunters. Humanity had kept its promise of peace by becoming the most terrifyingly effective force for order the galaxy had ever seen. They had solved the eternal problem of maintaining civilization in a universe full of those who would destroy it. They had shown everyone what true peace looked like, a garden protected by gardeners who were absolutely willing to remove the weeds.